Stories. Each one of us has one, and sooner or later, shame tends to show up in them. It's no respecter of persons or systems. And what we do with shame in our individual lives has potentially geometric consequences, because as we will learn eventually, shame becomes larger than the sum of its parts when it extends from individuals into the systems that we occupy. As well, shame presents itself in various cloaks, either subtly or grotesquely. It can be below the surface of our awareness, or right in front of our very faces, day in and day out. Some of us are more aware of it, others of us are far less so. It's also something that is being wielded with intention by evil for the purpose of our destruction. So what then exactly is this thing we call shame? We have various words to describe it that we're all familiar with: embarrassment, humiliation, indignity, disgrace. And we also know sort of what it feels like. But none of these things get exactly to what it is. We get that it points eventually to the cognitive expression of some variation of "I'm not enough," or "I'm bad," or "there's something wrong with me." But we would be mistaken to assume that shame begins in our thinking brains. Rather, it begins as a sensed, imaged, and felt awareness of what is happening to us in the world. In this way, we like to talk about it as a neurophysiologic event long before it's anything else. Take Matt, for example. Matt was a young man who presented to me with anxiety about being anxious. But he would eventually find out that it was much more than just about anxiety. Matt was someone who was successful in everything that he did. If you were to know Matt, you would wonder, what would he have to be ashamed of? Everything that he touched seemed to turn to gold. He was someone who worked hard at everything he did, including his faith experience. This was a young man who followed Jesus and followed his heart and worked hard at the work that he did. So effective was he that it would have been almost virtually impossible for one to imagine that there would be anything that he would even be aware of about being ashamed. What we come to find out, though, is that simply thinking differently doesn't often help us. Why do I say that? When Matt came to see me, he figured, all I need to do is think differently about my life. There's something wrong about my life in terms of how I think, such that I'm anxious. Little did he know that anxiety was only the tip of the iceberg, and that underneath all that was shame lurking in ways and in parts of his story that he wasn't really yet aware of, as is often the case for many of us. Matt, as it turned out, was someone who had worked really hard in his younger years to make sure that he was working hard at being good at everything he did, and his worry about not being effective enough had begun long earlier in his childhood, in which he knew, without actually knowing it in his thinking brain, that if he didn't work hard enough, he wasn't going to be okay. With this kind of practice at working really hard in order to keep yourself from feeling bad, Matt became really effective at lots of things. But when he was ineffective at things, his anxiety simply led him to think, I just need to work harder. It didn't really get to the underlying cause, which were the relational bases of why he was feeling ashamed in the first place.